Hello and good evening, and welcome to The
The
Truth
truth
Behind
behind
the
the
Truth.
truth.
Behind the truth.
Behind the
Yeah,
Truth. Yes,
yeah.
indeed. Want to welcome everybody to our wonderful show this evening. Want to welcome all of our Facebook family, our YouTube family, and our Instagram family. Thank you guys for taking the time out to tune into this wonderful broadcast that we are bringing across the world and out the nation, helping people
Yes.
find their authenticity
Yeah.
because they know that they are enough. All right. Want to remind you that we are in the midst of this wonderful series of Men Have Voices Too. It's going to be a really, really good show tonight. I'm just really so excited. We have one of our returning guests tonight, Mr. Tyler Tate, which we'll be talking about the toxicity that is plaguing men. Okay, what is the next particular concept? Perspective. I want to remind everybody also to go to the Truth Behind the Truth page. Definitely get your T-shirt. Get your T-shirt. All right. The purchases are getting low. Okay, that means you ain't buying. Okay. So we need you to buy. Okay. Very simple as that. No other question. The truth behind the truth.
That's what it is. That's what it's all about. The truth.
For sure. Definitely for sure. Also want to remind you guys of some upcoming shows that we've got. Once we are concluded this particular series, we're going to be going into which is PSD of the Church. My God, that's going to be a show. That's going to be a series.
You talking about, we're going to be talking about this at the right time because there's a documentary that's coming on PBS about the original of the Black church and its let's just say of its let's just say it's about its it's pushed within the community.
Okay.
It's what it has did to change the course of history and what it has helped within the civil rights movement, within certain eras, within the 20th century. But on that though, it's coming out on PBS. I don't know what it's called, but it has Oprah Winfrey on it.
Oh, wow.
It has the professor from Harvard, the guy that does the genealogy show.
Okay.
Lewis Gates.
Lewis Gates.
Lewis Gates. He is doing this documentary.
Gotcha.
It's gonna probably be a good documentary because he has not put a bad piece of work out there yet.
Right.
Which is good. So I say people look out for it.
Right.
It's worth looking at that and talking about the PTSD of the church.
Right. It's always a great thing that we always have. Our conversations are so organic. In its inception, I love that. Where they go. But real quick, guys, how are you, Harold?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Happy pre-Valentine's Day.
Pre-Valentine's Day. It is.
Oh my goodness!
At least y'all got some smiles on y'all face. Dr. Parnell, how you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. I was really happy to see you guys put that picture of Mary Wilson up there.
Yes. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, because that was, a lot of folks don't know, that was my really dear friend and boss for almost 28 years.
Wow.
Toured all over the world with Mary Wilson. So got to meet a lot of folks. So it was quite a shock. And I'm like, man, it's almost a week already that, since she passed, time goes by, so I'm like, yay, Mary.
Wow. Well, we'll have you elaborate on that in just a few minutes when we bring our guest up, and dig into that for one of our parts of our, our Black History moment that we're sharing. So we'll definitely have you elaborate on that, and that. Also, family, we want to welcome Mr. Parnell, definitely, for joining the cast of Truth Behind the Truth.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
He has gladly accepted to be a part of this team and to moving forward with what we're doing. So we're really excited to have him, joining the team, after some definite soul searching in between us and, conversations with him. And he's really on page with Harold, myself, Dylan, and now him, and definitely our wonderful producer behind the scenes. So he's on page with where we're going with the show. So I'm really, really excited. Thank you so much, Parnell, for making that commitment to the truth behind the truth. I'm really, really excited.
I'm honored.
Have you a part of it. Well, without further ado, we don't want to keep him in the green room too long. All right. We want to welcome back to Truth Behind the Truth. Give him a drum roll. We'll be at focal point tonight. We want to welcome back this actually creative young man that has put together I think a wonderful document. We won't be able to have a chance to get into the full documentary, but we'll allow him to speak that so you as our audience can go and view it and share it and make sure you give him the support about the documentary as well. All right. Well, welcome back to the show. All right. I'm so excited about it. Mr. Tyler Tate. We love it. Thank you, Tyler. We thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've been trying to get back for a couple of weeks, and other obligations have had you, preoccupied. But we're definitely glad that we're definitely glad that you took the time out to be with us tonight. Hopefully, maybe if the conversation rolls that way, can be with us again next week, and make this thing happen.
That's right.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. Well, before we dig in tonight, let's go ahead and dive into our Black History moment. Okay. We are focusing in on two people tonight, but we're going to start off first with Mary Wilson. And Parnell, you can, give your shared point because you've worked with her, and share about how passionate she was. And then, we'll each give our point about paying her homage for not Black history, but American history. We focus it because it gives the attention to the month, but it is American history. Every post I put out, it's American history. You know what I'm saying? Because it's Black people that made history in America. Yeah. Okay. That's what it is, bottom line. But go ahead, Parnell.
Thank you so much. I just really thought about it because I sung with Mary for 27 years. I was actually 27 when I started singing with her. And this year is the 60th anniversary of the Supremes signing with Motown. They actually became the Supremes. So it was huge. And, she was very excited about new music releases of music that was recorded by the Supremes that was being re-released, music that she has done that was going to be released by Universal. And so it's kind of like a monkey wrench was thrown into the plans, but I've been so happy to see a lot of the videos and stuff that are coming up about Mary that people get a chance to see. One, of course, everybody knew Mary was always the beautiful one. She's always the pretty one, So people know that. But what a lot of folks don't know is she was also the funny one. Mary was so funny that, like a lot of stuff that she and I would have so much fun on stage. Because when I came into the scene, it was the thing that she wanted to have a male singer for a change. And a lot of fans were like, she got some guy singing with her now. And I had to win them over, and just doing my thing. And eventually I got more and more and more that I became the announcer for the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I would and now, coming to stage, Miss Mary, whatever. And we had such a good time that I would do whatever I could on stage, just doing something stupid to make her laugh. So we just really had a great time. And I don't want to get too much on it because it's not about me. But I'm just so glad to see that she is getting so much love.
Yes.
And what's the word I'm looking? She's being honored so much.
Yes.
I think a lot of times people didn't really realize how much Mary had done, not just with the Supremes, but she was also responsible for getting the truth in. I forget what it is. Truth in, I can't remember the name of it, but it was an act that was actually about cutting down a lot of these imposter groups that were going out saying that we're the Supremes or we're the Temptations, but they didn't have a single member or whatever in it. So she had to, this pass a law that you have to either have an original member of this group to be called the name of that group, or you have to put a disclaimer, we are a tribute to and stuff. And she was working on trying to get a stamp for Florence Ballard before she was the torchbearer for the Supremes image. Yeah, so
Wow.
Well, she was the original founder besides Florence Ballard, because people seem to forget Donna Ross didn't come into the lineup till at the last minute. There was a story, because I did not know how important the Supremes were to Motown until I read the book Supreme Faith, or
Dream Girl, My Life is a Supreme.
Life of a Supreme. Thank you. I read, and what interested me was the friendship between her and Florence Ballard, and how they met at a high school talent show. and how Mary always praised Florence Ballard for having the best voice of the group.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, Florence come to her and said, I'm starting a group with these 3 guys who were part of the Temptations at the time, but they're and sure enough, they're walking through the neighborhood, and I think they met this girl called Barbara Martin. I think that was one of the primates. And then Mary was like, "Oh, I know this girl from across the street. She's, her name is Diane. It wasn't Diana, it was Diane." Right. And sure enough, they all meet up. They weren't friends. They were just at this audition, and it, and it clicked. But Barbara Martin, she went out when they signed to Motown. She left, and sure enough, Motown said, "We don't like this name called the Primettes. It's just too regular. Go find you something else and we'll sign you to Motown." So they went outside that Motown building, and Florence and Mary and Diana was like, "What can we call ourselves?" And Florence was like, "Well, we just," she had 3 names. I forgot the names of it, but one of them was the Supremes. And sure enough, they went back into the building. They said, "Well, we're going to be the Supremes." And that's how it went on. And, Mary, when I read that book, and I'm not going to hold it too long, but I felt so bad for Mary Wilson for a long time after I read that book, because she was in the center of the destiny that was the Supremes. Because when Mary Wilson, I'm not going to take too much, but the Supremes, they reigned over Motown for such a long time. And when Diana left, Mary just did not know where to go and what to do. But sure enough, she held fast and she held that group together. She wrote that book. People didn't like her. Certain people didn't like her after she wrote that book. But God bless her, because that was a story that needed to be told. And that story needed to be, told for future groups, because people just don't understand. People have different paths, but she held, like you said, she held strong and she kept it going.
And it's like a lot of people try to make the tension between Mary and Diana Ross this big, huge, horrible thing, and it really wasn't as bad as people try. Like a lot of friends, you have disagreements, and sometimes you go separate ways or whatever. But Mary was always happy and proud of anything Diana did. When I remember when Working Overtime came out, and Mary's like, "Oh, Diane got a hit song on this. Go girl," and and she was very, very, very always happy and proud of her, and she would not let people bash Diana Ross. People said, "Oh," Diana said, that's still my sister." So don't put her down to lift me.
Diane from the Brewster Project. Hey, Diane, yes, man.
Right. And she told me years ago, she was like, "You know what? I have come to the decision that I'm letting all that stuff go." She said, "Because what I really think is neither Diane or Barry," she called her Diane. People thought she was being shady, but she knew this woman when they were 14, 15 years old as Diane, way before she became Diana Ross. It's not shade. It's just, that's my childhood friend.
Right.
She's like, "I have decided that, they were doing all that they could to make their dreams come true, and didn't look at how that would affect other people."
Right.
She's like, "I'm not going to take it as they were maliciously trying to do stuff, but they were just so focused on their goal. They were aware of how it affected other people." And so, don't have any bitterness or anything like that about. It's like, everybody can't be Diana Ross. I love being Mary Wilson.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
That's true. That is so true. That is so true.
Beautiful story.
And you could tell she lived her life in such freedom, because she was so, even at the age she just was beautiful and radiant still at what I think she was 76.
76.
And so you can tell that she just lived a life of freedom and forgiveness and just a resilient spirit.
Absolutely.
And dated some fine men of her time too.
Tyler, did you want to share about your point about that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's overlooked in the music industry is just, we already touched on a little bit, the impact that they had in Motown. But I want to say, I would even take that a stretch further and say in the world, because still to this day, there is no other group, not female group, not black female group that had an amount of success, because you have to also track and consider the fact that at that time they didn't have streaming services. So when people when you purchase music, you had to actually physically go and purchase the music.
That's right.
So that being said, they to this day are still the most successful group because some people like to argue that it's the Beatles. It's not. It's actually the Supremes, the most successful singing group in the world.
Yes.
The world. When you consider the numbers and the money that was made and the way that music was purchased at that time, they are still to this day the most successful group in the world.
Yes.
I found that out by doing my own research. People don't really market them as that or kind of plug that information into the conversation. But that's a big thing.
It is.
That is such a, you know, and you know, a lot of conversation came up. I remember when Beyonce or when Destiny's Child split, and a lot of conversation came out about that and their influence. And I'm like, but y'all got to go back to the genesis of all of that. That whole concept of having a group of beautiful women and their voices they're just singing angels.
Right.
That we got to go back to where that sort of thing started out. And it started with the Supremes. That was, I don't think there will ever be another group with that kind of charisma and that kind of spark.
Discipline, honestly, with that kind of discipline, you know, I mean, and it took a lot of discipline to go through what they did, especially in a time where you typically Black women, you know, as a whole, were not being celebrated. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like they were. Speaking of which, I know we got to move on in terms of our conversation, but our next focal point, you know, during this Black Vision for today, is right in line with what you're talking about. Okay, because without her, none of these people, in terms of pop culture, would be. Okay, I mean, I'm serious. None of them. Okay, and the list goes on. I mean, you can bring from the Britney Spears all the way down to the independencies of the Beyoncés and everybody else, the Christina Aguilera, everybody. Without her setting even Mariah Carey. You see what I'm saying? Even Whitney Houston. Okay, this particular person started her career at the same, you know, coming at the same headlines of the Supremes. So she had a lot of the disciplines by being around Motown. You know what I mean? And learning the disciplines of that and being able to implement that in her life, you know, throughout to contribute to such great success. So the next focal point we're talking about is Miss Janet Jackson. Okay,
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Oh my God,
Janet
Jackson. Yeah. You know, Janet is still to this day one of the most celebrated single artists around the world.
Yes.
Okay. As I stated out, none of these girls following could ever have a career if it wasn't for Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson started her career about 42 years ago, okay, making her guest appearance on the Jackson Variety Show, okay? And from there, it's from that particular, and she caught the bug, okay? And now she's celebrating the 35th year of the anniversary of her major album, which was Control. Broke all records. Broke all records and still breaking records to this particular day. Okay, so none of these people would be, and I'm saying all of them. You think about every female that has hit the market, okay, would be having the spotlight if it wasn't for Janet Jackson at this point. Now, when we go back further to Janet, but right now we're talking about pop culture, you know, rhythm and blues music. It was Janet Jackson who set the tone for that to happen. Go ahead. I know you're about to say something, Parnell. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just reminiscing of I've been a fan of hers from back in those days, you know, when they used to have the Jackson 5 variety show. And you know, when Janet and Randy used to do their Mae West and WC impersonations and everything. So from that, and then to be in Penny on Good Times. And then was it Charlene on?
She was on a
different world.
In the Fame. Yeah. And then there were the two albums before Control.
Right.
Hit, and it was what really made her like Janet, this icon. And like you're saying, before her, female performers did not dance like that.
Yep. Right.
It was not a singing dancing thing. It was just, you know, they were cute and did their little thing. I mean, even the Supremes were all about this very showing Black women as glamorous and elegant. And, you know, Janet was like about showing Black women in control of their lives and their careers. And there was a whole different thing. All of a sudden, now if you're going to be a pop R&B singer, you better know how to dance.
That's true. That's true.
Because the queen has set
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
stage for it, you
The
know?
standard, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Carol, go ahead.
I just remember the video that made such an impact that I just watched probably 1,000 times was The Pleasure Principle. I was like, you know, that one was just like, yeah, and that chair, when she did that chair thing, I'm like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that was just, you know, it was a simple video, but just impactful.
Yes. Yes. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah. When I think about Janet, not only it's the first of all, when it comes to the dancing, she basically just flipped the entire industry on its head. I really need we need to really emphasize the fact that if you can think about it for as hard and long as you possibly can, you're not going to find another female artist who was busting out the way she was doing and bucking down stage while she was singing. Nobody was doing that. And which is very and coming from a person who does musical theater, singing and dancing is really hard. It in and of itself is a skill. And it's something that you have to practice. And of course, she grew up in a performance based environment with her family, so she definitely had a lot of time to work that muscle. But one thing that I love about Janet is the way that every album that came out, she reinvented herself. It's not like nowadays where the album drops and it's just kind of just different music. For her, it was we doing a different look,
right?
Different energy. You're getting different influences, like the way she would merge in like maybe some Chinese culture in one, African culture in the other. We're gonna be in the military over here. The way she involves the world into her, I think it was what makes her such a revolutionary artist. It's at the end of the day, a good artist knows that it's never about them. It's about the spectator. It's about the viewer. It's about the community.
Yes.
The way that she did that in such a big way, I think, is what makes her legendary.
Wow.
You know, as Black artists don't understand that Janet came out during almost at the beginning of the MTV era. You know, there was a time where, you know, Black women like her in that era weren't celebrated, and thankful to Michael, who set that platform for her and Whitney to come behind, and Prince too. But you know, it's just the fact that they were the first. So all of the pressure of being the best was on them to succeed, because the endorsement deals, the album sales, the contracts, the multi-million-dollar contracts that she was getting was ahead of her time. She was probably one of the highest paid women of her time in the 90s. And then you had Mariah Carey and all that coming after. But the fact is, she was the first. She set the trend. And I hate for this new generation to only think of her of that unfortunate situation that now this guy had apologized for. I'm not going to bring it up, but it's BS that had happened to her, and her career had a little bit of a setback, but the name and the legendary career still rises to the top. Thank you, Miss Janet. Thank you for being a class act.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
We truly appreciate it. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get into the topic of the night, toxic masculinity.
Yes.
We'll be right back with you guys after this commercial.
Okay.
And we're back. All right. Excited tonight. It is the night of the night. Okay. We're about to dig in. Once again, want to welcome our special guest tonight, Mr. Tyler Tate, to the show. Hey, Tyler, we're glad to have you, definitely. And also want to say hey again to our Facebook family, our Instagram family, and our YouTube family. Now, if you guys are not sharing, liking, sharing, liking, y'all doing yourself an injustice. And subscribing. Okay, subscribing. You know, we're growing, but we need your help to continue to grow. And if you want to send us some money, we ain't ashamed. Okay, yeah. You can go right to the Truth Behind the Truth page. click on the email and say we're sending you this much. We'll send you the Cash App name. Okay. Harold, did you get to see your commercial tonight? How did you think of your commercial, Harold?
I did. It looks great. Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
All right.
That's when my beard used to be black, though. I need to update all those pictures. That's when my beard used to be black. I'm a different person. I look like that person's dad now.
Oh, you know what? Well, at least they're one and the same, okay? All right, guys. So let's go ahead and dig in. Mr. Tyler, you want to take us in, starting this discussion on the hot points of toxic masculinity. Then we're going to show a clip of your documentary. But matter of fact, share with the audience about your documentary first, if you don't mind, and where you kind of went with that, and where they can also get it and you'll be able to view it as well.
Yeah, so it's available on YouTube. If you search, if you go to YouTube right now and type in Black masculinity, only a few things come up, which is one of the reasons why I made the video, because there needs to be more content being pushed out there around this very sort of nuanced issue. And we'll, of course, talk a little bit more about it today. But the driving... my motivation behind doing this sort of work is that I find bits and pieces of other people's very negative, traumatic, and violent experiences with masculinity in the Black community, and I only find little slices of conversations about it in other places. I don't know whether people are just not aware, or people are purposefully shying away from it and not talking about it, which can be because it's something that's sort of uncomfortable. So that's the purpose of the work. That's the purpose of the video I made. And conversations like this one.
Well, you know, you did, you know. Oh, go ahead, Harold.
Hey, Tyler, can you tell us, for a lot of people who don't know what toxic masculinity, can you tell us what that is? Because we hear it a lot, but I don't know that everybody knows what that means.
Yes, so toxic masculinity is, in layman's terms, anything that can be connected to masculine aesthetic or masculine activity that in turn hurts someone. Masculinity in and of itself is not inherently toxic. It is the ways in which things like trauma manifest in a person's behavior that affects people that then makes it toxic.
Got you. Like that.
A masculine trait in someone is to be self-sufficient, and for someone to be a person who wants to be empowered or have control. When that power and control turns into domination, it is a toxic masculine trait.
Got you. Did you had a question, Parnell?
No, I'm just listening and observing this time.
Okay, all right. I thought you were giving me a signal you had a question. Okay, you know, we'll go ahead and run a brief clip of the documentary, and then we'll come back and open up more discussion on it. Okay. All right, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Not the sound.
I can't hear anything either.
Yeah. Well, while he's working on the sound, guys, we'll just go ahead and start talking. So the introduction of the way you form the piece, I see that what you have. Can you kind of describe where the evolvement of this came from in terms of like even just introduction of the piece?
Yes. So I am an actor, and in my experience with being a Black male actor, I noticed something that sort of came up a lot, and Dylan is going to love this because he's going to hear me talk about our experience with an undergrad. I noticed that in shows, it was told to certain men to man up or do very specific things on stage to play these different male characters. And I thought to myself, okay, if that was the case, I don't know why we're in undergraduate theater, so of course we're limited to the amount of people that we can cast in different shows.
Mhm.
But I thought to myself, think about what you're doing when you basically tell a person that their masculinity as it exists is at such a state that is displeasing to you that they now must perform their masculinity in order to portray a certain character.
Oh, wow.
And when I thought about that, it was more so an afterthought than it was something that was kind of in the present moment. But after I was out of undergrad and I'm here in grad school and I'm doing my work here, I say, we consider August Wilson to be the Shakespeare of Black work, which basically means he is the height of Black theater.
Okay.
So, but within that work, if August Wilson's work is the height of Black theater, and every male character must have this big, really overwhelming, strong masculine presence, and this is in my experience with the August Wilson works that I have done, what does that do to the psychology of a male who just simply doesn't naturally have that in his body? And why is that not a conversation? So I wanted to kind of do a little research about that, which is what led me to reading Bell Hooks' book, The Will to Change, which is something that a friend of mine introduced me to when I told him that this is something that I was interested in researching. And in the book, Bell Hooks talks a lot about how in general, in the world, men are taught to stifle emotions. Men are taught that the more that they can be stoic, the stronger they will look. They're told that men are usually told to hide emotions, but in some cases, the only emotion that is appropriate for men to show is anger, because when you have anger, you assert power with anger.
Right.
And I just started thinking about how things like that really manifest in very toxic ways. And when I relate it back to my work as an actor, I realized that there's two forms of performances taking place here. There's a types of performances that a person like me who, I remember as a young boy, my grandfather used to say, this is how you walk like a man. You walk like a man, you stand like this, and you do this. Okay, wow. So, masculinity to me, in my experience, has just been a performance. All of it.
Right. Wow.
What I've seen is that it's all about the things that men have to do to be seen as masculine, rather than it being a state of being, which is why I really love Iyanla Vanzant's book, The Spirit of a Man, where she talks about in her life, being masculinity is about what men do, the things that men do that make them appear masculine, rather than it being an essence or an energy that is just innate inside of you. And so what I realized was there's two performances taking place in the realm of theater. There's the ones that Black men are walking into inherently through their subconscious teachings of the masculine presentation. And then once you get on stage and you're in a show like August Wilson's The Piano Lesson, which was my second show that I did when I was at Alabama State University, you're putting on the performance of having to then man up your behavior to fit these different characters. I'm like, now wait a minute. Now I'm not. We got to. Now I'm putting on two performances for you.
Right.
I've only been put in the cast to put on one. So which one is it going to be? Right. It's just this thing where it's like there's these really nuanced, roundabout, underhanded things that are taking place right now in the Black community. When it comes to men and masculinity. And when I realized that there wasn't really any conversation about it, that's what sparked my research. My research then, that's what made me want to do the piece that I put on YouTube, so that I can get some more conversation around it started. The work that I'm doing on my thesis right now in graduate school is all about the ways that masculinity affects the Black actor. Because for me, when I was on stage and I was having a director tell me to man up or play a character in a more masculine presenting way, I had a very physical reaction to that. Like I could feel, like, when you get awkward and like you can feel your body wanting to do something. that to me is a hindrance on my creative process when someone's words can trigger a physical reaction inside of me. So that's what, and I'm like, well, I know for a fact I'm not the only one experiencing this, because not only in my research have I seen other men talk about these kinds of experiences, but even in conversation with other Black actors, they said that they've had directors do the same thing, and they had those same physical reactions, which is the perfect.
Wow, you know that I mean, what you have just shared is just a major load of information. I mean, I'm just like, you know, it's like I just had this great download of everything that you said. I mean, and just the way that you broke it down, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because we really need to address this issue. It's a very toxic issue that plagues the community. But before we're going to try to run the segment one again. I know we had a little sound issue real quick. So let's try to run it again, see what we come up with. Then we'll talk a little bit further. Well, anyway, we'll continue. Maybe we can get it up in just a second. I know we're having a little technical issue trying to bring it up, tonight. But anyway,
it happens to every man once in his life.
Huh?
Having to get it up.
Oh, okay. You're a man.
You know what? When he was saying that, you know, when we both went to the same college, you know, I used to do a monologue from Tennessee Williams called it was from the play The Glass Menagerie. And you know, we always did those plays from August Wilson and The Color Purple, and because we went to an HBCU, we celebrated Black writers and Black plays and the historical significance of what those plays did for our community. But nobody talked about the breakdown within the masculinity in those male characters and the struggles, especially when it came from, you know, and we talked about this on the last show about The Color Purple and the toxic masculinity and misogyny that went into that storyline.
Yes.
Mr. and the stepfather and his son who was married to Sophia, and how they reigned over all of these women and their characters, you know. And it's so funny, you know, that in itself, I don't know that message that's been presented so much within the art of the Black art. But I always used to wonder when it boiled down to plays, you know, when it comes down to, let's just talk about other writers. I love Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams, if you don't know, he was a white gay man of his time. He was a white gay playwright, but he wrote characters who fought the system of being a man. And the character of Tom in The Glass Menagerie was one of those characters I looked up to, because growing up in a certain situation, you had to be not only the man of the house. I was never the man of the house, but it was just you had to feel like you contributed in some way. Your presence contributed to the household.
Right.
And one thing I loved about his stories is that he always had these male characters who were conflicted within their sexuality. They didn't, you know, they were always fighting and debunking the system within themselves, even though in that time period, and when you talked about it in your documentary, Tyler, about patriarchy, about the fact that patriarchy within any society, within any community, hurts the community, because we have this false narrative about what patriarchy looks like from our foreign brothers who seems to run this country. And we saw it with an impeachment trial this morning.
Right.
This morning, there were a bunch of white men who voted for the wrong side of history.
Yes.
They voted for a patriarchy and a toxic masculinity that they knew for so long, even as far back as when this country was built and when slavery was put here and doing Jim Crow up until Trump.
Yes.
And the saddest thing about this situation is that you have some Black men in the community that uphold this stuff.
Right.
And it's really one of those documentaries about patriarchy. I said to myself, we cannot keep going down this route of looking to this person for what we need, we strive to be, because we see how it breaks up our communities. Women don't trust, Black women don't trust us.
Right.
The children don't respect us. And the fact is, you have some black people in the community that don't trust black men.
That's true. Well, a lot. I mean,
a lot. But you have some. I don't want to put too much, but it's just the fact that they don't trust us because we're looking to be this masculine hype man. But it's not pushing our community and not pushing the black man in the right light. And I want to end on that.
Harold, did you have a point?
Well, I love what Tyler said about the performances. Masculinity being a performance. Because when you look at our community, you know how we are in our communities, how we put on this front, and how we don't show any emotions, and when we greet each other, it's just like, "What's up?" It's a performance. It really is a performance.
It's a performance. Yes.
Yeah, and we are brought up that way. It's like I never saw my dad cry ever. I never, and I better not cry. I better not cry. I don't care if I fell and hurt myself or I got a shot. My dad was, you bet not cry. So, suppressing those emotions.
Yes.
We carry that into our adulthood. So when we talk about having relationships as an adult, it's difficult for us to have those connections because we don't even know how to feel. We don't even know how to express what we feel because of our experience as, growing up.
Right. Gotcha. Parnell?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because I'm thinking about like my father's generation and how what defined masculinity has changed years, whereas like guys back then, like when we look at the civil rights movement of those men, masculinity was about the suit and tie, and providing family and being a man of a certain stature. I mean, I remember when there was all that stuff with Vivica Fox and 50 Cent was going on. And the gentleman is like, he says, I can't believe this happened, this drama, because back in my day, the only thing a woman like that would say to a man like that is, have a nice day.
Right.
But somehow, somewhere along the way, masculine became gangster. It's all about this hard, thuggy thing. That's the thing that makes you a man. I'm like, okay. No. And so I always try to especially younger men, to show them the images of black men in particular from the 50s, the 40s, and the 60s. Yes. So this is a masculine man right here.
Right. Exactly.
And I know black men always, we talked about this last week about black men get a bad rap about, having children that they don't take care of.
Right.
But what studies have shown is black men are more or as equally or more involved with their children. Ethnicities, whether they are married to the mother or not, whether they're at home or not, black men are still making the effort to be involved in their children's lives. So that's my thing. Is like I'm always like, listen, I'm gonna post that up on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, everything, because I need to counter this falsehood about who black men are.
Right, exactly. Yes, I agree. Harold, I mean, just like he just mentioned a minute ago, and I know you being a single father, and the disciplines that you took on, share for a moment, in that, we're I know we're talking about masculinity in the process of that, and how did you make the assessment to bring the right things to your son and set the motion, in place for that, based upon what you're not even having that experience, you know what I mean? So how did you do that? Where did you gain the knowledge or and all that, because from there, because you had him since he was a baby, right? Just raising from a child, baby, right?
So I give you. And so for me, it was therapy.
I'm sorry, I missed your point. You said a single father since when?
My son's mom died when he was. Yeah, my son's mom died when he was 10 months. So I've been a single parent.
Okay. Wow. Hey guys, I'm gonna take a minute. Harold. Hey. Wow. Beautiful, Harold. Beautiful. But go ahead.
And so for me, I didn't have the tools. I didn't know what I was doing. I was raising a child with no instruction manual. I didn't know what I was doing. And it really took me going to therapy. When my son was in middle school, he had a lot of anger issues and he was getting in a lot of trouble. And I didn't know how to address it. I didn't have the tools to help him. I didn't know what to do. And so I ended up going to therapy and taking him to therapy. Well, my goal was to take him to therapy, not me. But the therapist said, no, you have to be a part of this process because, there's some tools that you need to get that you don't have. And I think sometimes as parents, we think that we know what we're doing, and oftentimes we're just recreating what was given to us and parenting the way we were parented.
Right.
And so one of the things that came out for us in therapy was the fact that my son told the therapist that I never told him that I loved him. And that hurt, but it was true because my dad never told me that he loved me. So I just, I just assumed that he knew and that it didn't need to be verbalized. And so she told me, you have to tell him, and you have to, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. He's not going to believe you, but you have to keep saying it. And I had to do, it was probably over a year, me saying it every day before he responded, because I would say it and he was just like, And so I had to I had to get some new information, and I had to be willing to be courageous. I think a lot of times, we wimp out. We're not willing to venture into areas of our personality that but make us feel vulnerable. That's my child. Why is it so difficult for me to tell my son that I love him? But I just wasn't conditioned that way. And so for me, it really was, therapy and getting some new tools and information to be a better parent.
Wow.
But there's a point in the documentary that Tyler, you touched on when it comes down to feelings and emotional feelings within men within this capitalistic world. And I'm hoping and praying that Ish put this up and the sound does work, because this in itself he really broke it down. And I had to think about it, and like you're saying, Harold, how to emotionally communicate to your child. It's hard for men in this world, in the society that we live in, where that is not praised. You can't even cry.
Right.
That's the craziest thing about it. You can't even shed a tear and not be called a sissy or a punk. And I know that teaching is still taught somewhere in some backward community, in some hamlet of America, because I know that is the culture. But the fact is, what it's doing is killing all types of consideration and sympathy for humanity when it comes down to the woman and the child. Because how are we supposed to be united? And we talk about this within the Black community. I'm trying to make it not too much about the Black community, but universal. How are we supposed to unite as a community, as a family, if we can't emotionally, as people, get on one accord? That's why this COVID is still going.
This is so true.
It's still going rapid, because you have some men who say, I don't need a mask.
Right.
Now, sissy, I don't have to wear a mask because I'm strong enough to, to defend this. But still, though, you have those who think like this. And it's the saddest thing about it. And I'm gonna end on this too as well. There's a documentary also called Free Britney Spears. Y'all watch that too, because that in itself is very troubling, especially if you have daughters out there who are trying to survive in this misogynistic world. To deal with men on an entertainment level that we discuss all the time. We talked about Janet Jackson too. To deal with men in that capacity is hard when it comes down to capitalism and business and money, because feelings are not involved. Charity cases is not provided in communities when it comes down to what men are owning or over. And it's a sad thing,
Well, I mean, you said a whole lot.
I did. I really said too much, but I had so much on my mind. I had to put it out there somewhere.
You said a whole lot there. I mean, and I mean, and everything that everybody has said, if this, we really have got to find a way to create a better idea for us. And this is one of the things about the series is about. I had a very, very powerful conversation with one of the guests that was at my store when I was working today. And me and this gentleman spent about, oh my God, almost 2.5, 3 hours. We didn't know each other. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I mean, he was a previous guest and he decided to come back, and purchase some merchandise today. But we just started talking, and I started sharing with him, and he might be watching the show tonight, that what this show was about, what the series that we were in. And we really, I think, evolved into this beautiful conversation that we, at the end of the conversation, we felt the true love for each other. And we, at the end of the day, we were strangers, if anybody would say that, at the end of the day. But we both realized is that conversation needs to happen. And you got to find a way to integrate that conversation into your life.
Yeah.
No matter who you come in contact with. You mentioned about the aspects of love. Okay. Number one thing is that why, as men, we can't, we talked about some previous show, why we don't experience the opportunity to extend love, because we're not celebrating each other.
No, we're not.
You understand? When celebration comes in, all of the emotions that we've been talking about is released. You know, then the opportunity for love to come in. Okay, then the opportunity to come for a true emotion of tears if you're not feeling good about something, or if you had a bad day, whatever. You know, all of those emotions start to invoke. But when you're not celebrating, you know, yourself, number one, how are you going to be able to celebrate somebody else? So what we've got to find a way is just simply just having a general conversation. You know, like you said, Harold, you know, you every time you pass a man, or even just general men in period, everyone throw their head up. You know, so what are you throwing your head up for? You know, say, hey, sir, man, hey, dude, or whatever. You know, how you doing? How's your day? You know, and we're so on defense. And I know you probably talked about this too, Tyler. We're so on defense that even if a person says to you, how your day? Well, what is he trying to do? Come on to me? You know what I'm saying? We're so in defense of something being led by another thing, and it has nothing to do with it. But that's a cultural thing too, because we've been fed that. We've been fed that there was something that was a motive behind the acknowledgement. You know, so where do we do it? I know we're getting close to kind of wrapping this up for tonight, but let's kind of touch each and of us a way that we can start encouraging, you know, our fellow brotherhood to celebrate. What can we encourage them to go out and do on a day-to-day basis to celebrate one another, so that we can have a conversation like the gentleman I had a conversation with tonight? You know, where is it that we're going to put down? We as individuals going to pull that shell off, you know, and allow ourselves to be transparent, and invite somebody else in so that we can start this conversation. Parnell, you look like you're ready.
Well, you know, I was just the simple thing of just the brother nod.
Yes.
You know, that simple. Hey. You know, because that's that thing of just like, it's an acknowledgement of, yeah, I see you, bro. I see you. I see you. And a lot of times, you know, you walk by certain brothers and they don't even acknowledge your existence in the world. Right. And I mean, well, God, I forget what the book was. It says a lot of times is we don't want to see the pain in each other's eyes. Right. You know, from what it's like to be a Black man living in America. At some point, we have to stop letting that be the thing. And like you were saying, celebrate each other just for the fact that we're still here. Right. That, you know, just like, yo, I see you on the street, man. We're doing good. Hey, what's up? And we don't have to have always, it doesn't always have to be a long, lengthy conversation or anything like that, but just a simple acknowledgement of each other we pass on the street. I'm very, listen, when I see Black people outside and we pass each other, I do my best to acknowledge, you know, hey, good morning. How you doing? Hey, what's happening, people? And some people are receptive to it, some people don't. Right. But I have to keep on about my little part. What is my friend Karen says? What is my something that I can do to encourage that to happen?
Gotcha. Harold?
Yeah, you know, I think it really starts with us. I think when we are filling our cup, you know, we have the courage to put ourselves out there. But if we're not doing our work, you know, we just kind of fall in line with what everyone else is doing.
Yes, that's true.
And so I think for most of us, it just starts with having the courage just to be who you are, you know, and to kind of take off that mask and just to be who you are. Because what happens is when we do that, we give other people permission to be who they are.
Exactly. Love that. Love that. Yes. Love that. Tyler?
I would say that we need to just completely shift the narrative around masculinity. At the very end of my piece that I have on YouTube, I say that Anderson Franklin, in his book, which is entitled From Brotherhood to Manhood, he lists responsibility, commitment, knowledge of history of peoples of African descent, compassion, and intimacy, all as values that should be taught to Black boys. And those to him are the values that line up with masculinity, not this performative stuff that we see that we tag masculinity onto. But as I said before, with Iyanla Vanzant, it is a state of being, and it is life-giving, and it is innate. But it, of course, takes that male individual to embrace that and activate it within himself.
Beautiful.
I would say in order for us to come together, authenticity needs to reign supreme. Authenticity needs to reign supreme within the male community. We need to understand that we don't always need to have our guard up and just be you.
Right. Okay.
Just be your authentic, truthful self.
Right.
But we also have to put away what the media tells us too. We have to turn off the television. We have to turn off the music. We have to understand who we are and the stock that we come from. You know, and I'm not going to make it about, you know, a long drawn out thing about me, but I even in my own experience had to learn me. I had to love me too.
Right.
I had to understand the uniqueness of Dallin for me to go out into this world and be me, even though I have this black skin, and then on top of that, I you know, the sexuality thing is another thing. But at the end of the day, that still should not be why I cannot come up to you and say, "How you doing, brother?
Absolutely.
Let me help you. Let me, you know, how things been going with you." Let's just put that to the side and let's just be authentic in the moment and truthful in the moment, and let's just let that reign supreme. That's all I wanted to put out there.
Yes. You always come with that sea life moment.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. I definitely love it. You know, and I think I think we've all encapsulated, you know, the whole idea. You know, and I really would love to dig into this more, you know, and talk. So there's just so many other layers, you know, that we're going to explore, you know, in terms of, because we really want to help men evolve. Okay, yeah, and for all of our viewing audience, I know we're centering typically around the African American male in the discussion, but this is for all males. Okay, at the end of the day, because they all have these layers. Okay, it's just that right now, because of the state of the world. You know, if I might as well say, or state of humanity, the African American male is still under a strong attack. Okay, so we've got to find a way to change that attack and be more vigilant about the support of one another, so that we can stand for the progress of what we need, so that we can stop seeing men of color being shot. Okay, and you know, and all these other type of scenarios that go on, but the brotherhood has got to stand together. The number one thing, would you say that? Oh, you said that last week about what was it? Oh gosh, you said something about either having allegiance about stop the black on black crime, or that you mentioned last week in terms of you put it in such a great narrative. I was trying to regurgitate what you were saying, but that's okay. But my point is that we really have just got to change this narrative, and we got to keep exposing these narratives so that our fellow brethren will gravitate and hear this, okay, and understand where we are going with this. Ladies, please pass this on to your sons. If you're a single mom, dads, pass this on to your sons. If you're single enough, you're in the same household, let them go back and review these conversations. Okay, you've got 3 of them to go. Was it 4 of them we did now? 3 or 4 of them? You got to go back. They've been all great, and they're going to get great before we end it all.
Give them a hug too.
And give them a hug, like give them a hug, a kiss on the head, cheek, wherever. Let them know that you love them. Okay, let them know that you love them. Okay. Bottom line, at the end of the day, love will conquer and change all. It will. It will change the whole narrative. We just got to start exercising that, you know, from a strong standpoint of view. Guys, I know we're running over a little bit in our time now, but that's okay. We want to thank you, once again, for tuning in to The Truth Behind the Truth. It has been one exciting night once again. I'm gonna say Dr. Tyler, because it took some doctorate to put this together. So you'd have moved up in title, not Dr. Tyler Tate.
I received it.
Yes, sir. So hopefully your schedule will allow you, you know, because we want to invite you back, because we really want to dig into this a little bit more, next week. And actually, we will have actor Ian Stiles will be with us next week on the show as well. So he'll be chiming in. So it'll be even more perspective on, getting a little bit more input, so we can continue this quest to improve the brotherhood. Okay, so guys, thank you again for tuning in tonight. We thoroughly enjoyed you. Again, like, share, subscribe. Go to Harold's page, get your black seed oil, get your book, 100,000 ways to eat a grapefruit.
That's my next one.
You got the next one, okay? But it's all in love. Definitely go and check out Tyler's full documentary, so you can have the full essence of it. Parnell, you selling anything?
I was going to say something.
I know you was. I was waiting. I was waiting.
I was waiting for that.
My OnlyFans page.
Okay.
OnlyFans.
You know what? I'm done. All right.
Oh, yes, I have. We have a film version of The Gospel at Colonus.
Okay.
That is available on progressivetheater.com.
Okay.
I'm one of the producers on that, so it's only available to the end of this month. So go check it out.
Definitely. Thank you, sir. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for Truth Behind the Truth. Y'all have an awesome week.
Yes.
We will see you back here.
Yes.
Back here.
Yes.
Next Saturday night. 6 p.m. What time?
8 p.m. on Eastern.
No. 6 p.m. West Coast
8
time.
Eastern time and 9 o'clock
On Eastern time. Eastern time.
Eastern time.
You know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, y'all. What we do? Hey, we love y'all. All right, much love coming at you. Have a powerful night, and thank you for tuning into the truth behind the truth. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.